Imagine a world where your mindset is the most powerful tool you possess. Your success isn't about just numbers and strategy. It's about energy, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. With AI poised to replace 85 million jobs by 2025, your only job security is your ability to inspire and energize others.
There are always two sales that occur. The second is selling you to others. The first is selling you to you. And until you can sell you to you, the second will always remain a challenge.
Did you know that people with a strong gratitude practice are 25% happier? Or that curiosity-driven companies outperform their competitors by 700%?
How would you spark curiosity in somebody?
Simon is a best-selling author of Energize, and this is a book that's received praise from giants like Simon Sinek and Marie Forleo.
When leaders openly express gratitude, the employees start doing it with their customers. They start doing it with their network. They start doing it with their clients. This gratitude turns into something that spreads because it's infectious. Now imagine if we were to scale that feeling. The fact is we are living in the feeling of our thinking moment to moment to moment. So what we bring into our thinking, we bring into our reality.
Simon reveals how these mindsets of gratitude and exponential thinking can transform your leadership and your life.
It's not about how many people you know. It is about, out of the people you know, how can you connect them to each other? How can you deepen the quality of those relationships?
How curiosity can uncover hidden market opportunities.
Curiosity is also what led me to publish a book in such a novel way, doing things that had never been done before.
And how an abundance mindset can lead to partnerships that seemed impossible.
Have you cultivated a partnership that's win-win because of your abundance mindset? I'm not sure, I don't even know if I like the word win-win. High value.
This episode is an opportunity for you to completely rewire your brain for extraordinary success and 10x your impact.
The disruption starts from within, simply through challenge. What would be necessary for you to get to the next level of your career? And then that begins the discovery.
This is Simon Alexander Ong.
Why the word energize, spelt with a Z and not an S, as opposed to any other word? Why that word?
I can answer the Z, not S first, very quickly.
Go ahead.
Simply because when I was working with my publisher Penguin, we wanted to get this out into the US market. And to make it easier to get out into the US market, it would be easier to have it in American spelling. So we started with the S, but then we changed it to a Z and Americanized a lot of the spelling throughout the book to make it accessible to the US audience. Why Energize as a title? The working title of the book started as Energy is Everything. And over the editing process, it became condensed to Energize. And the reason I wrote about energy is I wanted to teach people that energy management, not time management, is the key to productivity. You can be time rich, but if you are energy poor, you are simply going to waste that time and procrastinate. But if you're energy rich, even if you are time poor, you are going to get far more done in those hours than most will ever will. And so I really wanted to talk about that. How could we get to a point where we wake up every single day energized by possibility of what can be and of fulfilling our potential?
I love it. And it's a smart word. It does the job. What are the top 3 quotes from the book that you think I and people within business, actually, if I'm being very specific, should carry with us every single day to optimize every single moment?
The first is about conviction. So there is a statement in the book that goes, there are always 2 sales that occur. The second is selling you to others. The first is selling you to you. And until you can sell you to you, the second will always remain a challenge. Now that's when it comes to doing what we're paid to do, trying something we've never done before, or even getting promoted up the corporate ladder. If you don't have belief in your capability and your ability to succeed in your role or even in the organization, how is everyone else going to believe in your ability? It's impossible. So the first is about conviction. The second is about self-leadership. You can't lead others unless you are powerfully leading yourself first. So what that means is leadership is set by your example. You can say to others, this is how I want you to work. This is how I want us to show up. But if you are not demonstrating self-leadership first, it's impossible to influence and lead others to where you want them to be. And the third is creativity. If you don't cultivate a culture that promotes creativity, you are going to fall behind your competition. The world is changing fast, and one of the most powerful skills we can foster in our companies is that of adaptability. To be able to adapt is to tap into the creative energy that organizations possess, but we don't access. But if we can create a space for creativity and innovation to thrive, we become adaptable to whatever the world throws our way.
Simon, let's talk now about 6 mindsets that can help us to develop exactly those traits that you were mentioning and how we can demonstrate them to the world. So let me start with the first one. Gratitude mindset. What is it?
A gratitude mindset is all about appreciation. If you are never satisfied with what you have, more will never be enough. But if you can be content with what you have, express appreciation, what you tap into is this feeling of abundance. Gratitude is the path to abundance. And it's the path to understanding that we have so much more in our possession now than we give credit for.
I love it. What's the daily gratitude ritual? I'm sure you've been asked this many times. What's the daily gratitude ritual that you do that you think would be most impactful for other business leaders to do?
There are lots of gratitude rituals that we can employ, but the one that I believe every leader can put into action immediately to have an impact within their organization is simply making time to express gratitude and appreciation to every single person that they work with. So it could be as simple as asking yourself, who can I be grateful for today? And how will I tell that person or communicate to that person that I appreciate their efforts and what they're doing? It reminds me of a study that was done in a psychology paper where this researcher went to a hospital and this researcher asked the nurses 2 questions. The first question was, what do you enjoy about your job? The second was, what don't you like so much about your job? For the second question, the nurses said, we don't feel like we get appreciated. When an operation goes well, or there's a breakthrough in a new surgery, it is the surgeons that get the glory. They get the coverage in the press. But yet, even though we take care of them in the recovery stage, we don't feel appreciated. So curious, the researcher went to the surgeons and they asked the surgeons the same 2 questions. What do you like about your job? And what don't you like so much? For the second one, the surgeon said, we don't feel appreciated by the managers. We feel like they don't listen to us. They don't really understand our needs. So they go to the managers and they ask them the same 2 questions. And on the second question, the managers say, we don't feel appreciated by the government. We feel like we're the scapegoat. We don't get the resources we need. Now, what we can tell from this study is that just the simple act of expressing your gratitude to someone can transform morale. It can transform how people show up to do the work that you pay them for.
Now, I think it's Tony Robbins that sends a text message to someone every single day to express his gratitude and why that person is wonderful. What do you do?
I love voice notes. You know, when it's someone's birthday, when I'm connecting with someone for the first time, I love dropping a voice note because voice carries energy and emotion. When somebody sends you a voice note, you can feel the energy that's being transmitted. That's why voice notes are so powerful. But we can do other stuff. You know, we can send somebody a handwritten note to express our gratitude. We can call someone out in a meeting publicly by saying, hey, this person did fantastic at the presentation to this client. I just wanted to share that with you all as an example of what we can aspire to be like. We can gift someone something. It doesn't have to cost you much. Just by thinking about two things. Who can I be grateful for today? How can I express it? And how can I add value to someone's life today, no matter how small?
How have you transformed conversations and relationships simply through gratitude? Transformed.
The relationships that I've built over time have been transformed through the act of gratitude by simply saying thank you when they've supported me or they've helped me. So to give you some examples of recent relationships that have been transformed, somebody introduced me to an opportunity to speak to their company. And as a thank you, I sent them a small token of my appreciation. Somebody who has influenced me throughout my life, I connected them to an opportunity because I knew the person that could provide them what they're looking for. And so these small acts of appreciation, but also being of value and of service, has transformed the relationships that I've built. And when I think about networking and relationship building, it's not about how many people you know. It is about, out of the people you know, how can you connect them to each other? How can you deepen the quality of those relationships by bringing your network together and helping them because of the diversity of people you know?
There's a word for that, super connector. It really is a word. So I love that one. As a leader navigating challenges, how do you maintain your gratitude mindset even amidst adversity?
I think it's to reframe our relationship with the bad times, because times are never bad or good. They are whatever we make of it. We like to think we live in this common reality, but we live in customized realities. So when an event happens, some of us may see it as bad, some of us may see it as good. The fact is we are living in the feeling of our thinking moment to moment to moment. So what we bring into our thinking, we bring into our reality. But it also tells us that at any given moment, we can choose one thought over another, and it shifts our reality. It changes what reality is for us. So when it comes to setbacks or challenges or curveballs that are thrown our way, the way to maintain gratitude is to be thankful for them. Because without the setbacks and challenges, we won't know how strong we are, and we may not have had the lesson that has given us the opportunity to come back stronger. Because we learn more from our failures and setbacks than we ever will from our wins.
So how would you advise business leaders to instill this mindset of gratitude in the workplace?
I think it's done by example. So when leaders openly express gratitude to their colleagues, to their employees, when they encourage people to share who they can be grateful for, what happens is not only does that become the norm, but the employees start doing it with their customers. They start doing it with their network. They start doing it with their clients. So this gratitude, if you will, turns into something that spreads because it's infectious. I mean, just reflect on a time when somebody expressed gratitude to you. Maybe it was a manager that took you away from your desk and had a private conversation and expressed his or her gratitude to you. How did you feel?
It's empowering, Simon.
Or somebody sent you a voice note or a text message or an email just saying, Sandy, thank you so much for the work you did, or thank you so much for putting this together. How did that make you feel? Now imagine if we were to scale that feeling so that everybody throughout the organization felt not only part of something bigger, but felt like they mattered.
Other than sending someone an email or a message, I wonder if there's just one subtle other way of expressing how grateful you are, or making someone feel as though they're appreciated.
I think it's a talk openly, not just internally, because internal stuff is easy. I can walk over to someone's desk and say, hey, thank you so much for working hard on that project. That's the easy part. The harder part is expressing it to the outside world. So when you win an award because you are the leader of this team or company, or you are interviewed for a magazine or the press, do you say it is all about you? Or do you say it's me and the people I work with? I am only the face of this organization, the face of this team, but really I could not do this without them. That is a lot harder.
That I like. So this culture of gratitude is always about putting a spotlight on the others around you.
This is GROWIN. Subscribe to hear from senior leaders from the world's best brands share their real growth stories every single week to give you an edge in work, life, and play. Thank you.
Next mindset. Curiosity and the growth mindset. I like this one. First of all, what is it?
Curiosity and the growth mindset is understanding that there is always more to learn, that you never know it all. In effect, it is tapping into embracing that eternal student mindset, to always be a work in progress. So often when we graduate from formal education and go into the world of work, we think we know it all, that we don't have much more to learn, and that experience alone will suffice. But experience alone won't suffice, because the world is rapidly changing. So when you are able to tap into your curiosity and explore your curiosities, widen your perspectives, what happens is that you give birth to original ways of thinking. You give birth to new ways of thinking, and that's how you stand out from the competition. Not by doing what has always been done, but by doing things in ways that have never been done before.
The CEO of Microsoft is known for saying, don't be a know-it-all, be a learn-it-all. So I love that. And how would you, as a thought leader, how would you spark curiosity in somebody?
I think curiosity begins simply by changing someone's environment. Right. If we're going to the same office, to the same rooms, to the same desk, and spending time with the same people, how are we giving people a chance to foster their creativity, to explore their curiosities? So sometimes it could be managers saying to those in the team, hey, I want you to spend a couple of days a month going out and exploring your curiosities. If there is a conference you want to attend that has nothing to do with what we're working on, go and attend it, and then come back and share with us what you learn. And let's see if we can integrate that in some way into what we do, so we can do it in a very different way. And so often when I'm asked, how do we explore this creativity more? How do we really give lift to our curiosity? I say it comes down to having diversity of input. When you have diverse inputs into your thinking, you start to get curious about a lot more things. Curiosity is what led me to do the work I now get to do today. Curiosity is also what led me to publish a book in such a novel way, doing things that had never been done before. So to give an example, when I came to the book launch, I said to myself, well, how could I create a launch that would be different to most books on the market? Because typically people would publish a book, they would have a launch event, and then people go to the bookstore or order it online and they have their copy of the book to read. But I didn't want it to be just that. So my curiosity led me to partnering with the Connaught Hotel, where they designed a cocktail inspired by my book. So if you were to walk to the bar and you ordered this cocktail, it would be mixed for you on top of a trolley, and then it would be presented on a signed copy of my book. A couple of months after publication, we put together one of the world's first book launches in the metaverse. I'm partnering with an artist where she's creating an original piece of art inspired by Energize. And so these things were born from curiosity, a curiosity to do things different, a curiosity to take insights from people outside of my industry and to blend it with my own insights and my own ideas to create something totally unique. If we look at the corporate world, they have done things exactly like I'm doing in the entrepreneurial world. Steve Jobs, on a trip to Japan, he was over there to learn about design. He noticed that electrical appliance companies had magnetic cords on their products. And he said, why was this? He got curious. So he started asking questions. And then he realized they had magnetic cords so that if a child was to trip over one of those wires, the wire would come out, but the appliance would stay still. And he said, let's bring that into the next MacBook. And so when he introduced it into the MacBook, journalists and magazines and editors hailed it as a genius move. Yet it started from him being curious. Curiosity leads to creativity, and creativity leads to innovation.
I love it. So, Simon, where could we see a unique or unconventional source as an inspiration for asking smarter questions?
So, as a way of asking smarter questions, it's about tapping into people's ability to think different. So usually we ask our teams to come up with ideas, and most of us, if we haven't fostered that curiosity and creativity, we are not really original in what we put forward. So once you start hearing people's responses, you could guide people's curiosity by saying, how else could we do this? How could we do this different in a way that taps into, and then you could share some of the things you want to explore. So it could be, how could we do this in a way that taps into the development of artificial intelligence, that taps into emotion and storytelling, that taps into what's trending at the moment around the world. And that gives people permission to start exploring that curiosity, to start going out and researching, to go out and widen their perspectives.
Now, that's a little bit about embracing new experiences, experimentation, and therefore possibly failing. Hey, boss, I'm going to go out and test something new, explore something new, try something that's not been done before, which is the right thing to do, but no one wants to experience failure either. Although we do say fail fast, but we've all heard that before. So how would you encourage leaders to embrace experimentation?
Well, the first thing is to change your relationship with failure. We've grown up in a world where we are taught from a young age that you either fail or you succeed. They're opposite sides of the spectrum. If you achieve a certain grade or you tick the boxes in certain areas, you have succeeded. If you haven't ticked those boxes or you haven't hit a certain mark in your exams, you have failed. But the reality is, when you go out in the world and you try and build something for yourself, whether it is to build a successful career in an industry or start your own business, the fact is, failure is a stepping stone to success. You can't achieve real success without failing along the way. And so if you are going to promote this idea of experimentation, this idea of being a little innovative and different, then you have to reframe the relationship you have with failure. At the moment, too many employees fear failing because they think that if I present this idea to the rest of the team and it doesn't work out, and keep in mind, most new ideas won't work out because we don't know what is going to happen when we apply it. But if it doesn't work out, they fear that that will be held against them come their review. That the idea they put forward didn't work, and this is going to be held against me and might affect my chances for promotion. But imagine they were in a culture where leaders said, we don't see failure, we see experimentation. We want you to run as many experiments as you can because it's the small things that will allow us to accomplish the big things. It's not whether you have failed or not, it's about what you have learned from that failure. We want you to learn fast, and the only way to learn fast is to fail fast and carry out as many experiments as possible. To tap into the mindset of a scientist. A scientist doesn't run an experiment and collapse on his chair and say, hey, this didn't work out, I'm giving up. What they do is they do a trial, they sit down, record their feedback, record their observations, do a second trial, do the same thing, third, fourth, fifth, sixth trial, and eventually they arrive at what they were looking for. Or they may even find out other things they weren't expecting. But they don't see those trials as failures. They see those trials as necessary steps in order to get to that success.
The stepping stones. So you're saying get comfortable, encourage leaders to get comfortable with failure. It's not failure. Failure is to not fail, I think is what you're saying.
The only failure is not trying. Failure is never an outcome. It is not trying. If you're too scared to fail, you will never truly succeed.
How has your curiosity mindset led you to forge new partnerships?
It's absolutely fundamental. For me, if I was not curious, I would be settling on my achievements of yesterday. I would not be continually pushing myself to explore new horizons, to trying stuff I've never done before. My curiosity allows me to ask things of people that may not even sound normal, that may sound crazy at first, but the ones that kind of go, Simon, I think this could work. We just see what can happen. I'm not attached to the outcome. I'm simply open to everything. And I think it's a beautiful place to work from, because when I run my business, when I work on growing my team, when I look to make an impact in the world, I always do things with a long-term mindset in place. And when you are operating with a long-term mindset, it's all driven by curiosity. You're looking at things in the long term, not the short term. If it's a short term, you're never really going to take risks. But if you're seeing it in the long term, you're going to say, well, let's just see where this leads me to. Because I know, regardless of whether I win or I lose, or it works or it doesn't work, I'm going to learn something from it. And that is going to build my experience.
So when you, so I noted your expression, as I said then, you're like, it's almost like, wow, it's fundamental. Like it led to the partnership because I'm like that and it was critical.
Yeah.
So your curiosity, how does it manifest? Like you said something like the idea could be crazy, but it has to be to a certain extent, otherwise it's not big enough perhaps. So what is it that your curiosity enables you to do? What kind of questions or ideas is it enabling?
Sure, so I'll give you a live example of something happening in the moment. So recently, I was impressed with the Apple Vision Pro. And they have this new product coming out in 2024, which is looking to make the metaverse mainstream. And so my curiosity led me to questioning what I could do in the metaverse. And that curiosity led me to having meetings with companies and startups involved in artificial intelligence and metaverse products. And that curiosity then led me to have meetings with people within these spaces. So from that curiosity, I'm now at a point where I'm looking to design an AI version of myself, where I'm looking to run events in the metaverse, and also investing in young startups within these areas. And it all started with curiosity. That curiosity is allowing me to learn something I have no clue about, but I will be a lot more clued up about in the next few years. And I'm sure next year there'll be something else that I become curious about, that I want to learn about as well. And this constant desire to learn, this thirst for learning, especially when I'm starting as the dumbest person in the room about it, means that in time I can adapt, I can experiment fast, I can collaborate with different people in different industries because I'm building these relationships, I'm deepening my knowledge. And this has given me the power to be creative.
So your questions are leading you to people, finding people.
finding people, finding knowledge, finding solutions.
Yeah, I love it. Third mindset, abundance mindset. What is it?
Abundance mindset, simply put, is no limitation. Or as Bruce Lee would say, use no limit as limit. The abundance mindset is tapping into a galaxy of possibilities and not allowing your mind to limit you as to what you can achieve.
Wow. And for yourself, how has that manifested just on a daily basis?
On a daily basis, the word that best sums it up is bold. Thinking bold and acting bold. If we can think and act bold in every area of our life, in how we show up, in how we do business, in how we connect with other people, what happens is people feel that. You know, when I go to an event, I love sitting as close as I can to the front row because the people I get to meet in those roles tend to be incredible. The first few rows are either the speaker and his or her team, people from the press, people who are covering the event. And so that's for me thinking bold, tapping into the abundance that a single relationship I could have that evening could transform the trajectory of my career. That is through simply thinking and acting bold, believing that there is abundance out there. And there is. But we have to be ready to access it. And you only access it when you think and act beyond how most people do.
What does that particular mindset make you feel about others, how you perceive others?
So how I perceive others, I think not as many people think with an abundance mindset. We stop ourselves very quickly through fear and doubt and the pursuit of validation. And I relate to that because that was very much part of my journey. I grew up seeking validation. What will my father think? What will my friends think? What will my colleagues think? What will my boss think? And that tends to stop us from acting and thinking bold. We put a ceiling on our potential immediately before we have taken any action.
I'm a CEO. I'm scaling my business. It's a small team. And I want to instill this mindset of abundance in order to scale and empower my people. Where am I going to start?
So this is a good exercise actually. Let's imagine you are the CEO and we can do like a mini role play.
Please.
So what would abundance look like to you?
For me, it would be about empowering my people to, I'll steal your word, feel bold. So that would mean having the psychological safety to be able to say, I don't know, or I'm having issues, or these are my challenges, so that I can at least understand them, help them, empower them. And then the next level up from that, once they feel empowered, to share that knowledge, that feeling, so that mindset or that behavior to share, spread knowledge. And in a sense, almost pass on what they've received. So that kind of giving, I guess, is where I'm going. How did I do?
So on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being that is a reality now, where are you at in this moment of achieving what you just shared with me?
In terms of empowering others and trying to understand them, I think I'm at about a 6, Simon, which is somewhere in the middle, because I think I need to be more self-aware about being able to listen and to ask the questions to see if I've come across somebody and they're a difficult character, is not to judge them, but to have the abundance mindset myself, ask the right questions to try and understand what is the underlying issue, how can I help, have that abundance mindset, not a fear mindset that they are doing something to me. make them feel empowered, help them to trust me, increase my credibility and relationship with them. They feel empowered, feel great, hopefully pass that on.
Interesting, I heard you say need a couple of times. And the thing is, we never do the things we need to do. So my suggestion is to change the word need to must. And it was also fascinating because you spoke about how you have to embrace that mindset yourself first. So in order to go from a 6 to a 7, would it be fair to say that there is some work you have to do first to think with a greater abundance mindset?
Always. I think I'm aware I am definitely not perfect.
So what is the one thing you are going to put into action that can show to your employees that you are embracing more of that mindset?
The number one thing that I could do for my employees is to be a role model, I guess. So it goes back to what you were saying, actually, I think, so that they can model themselves on me and just duplicate the behavior that they're seeing. Yeah.
Amazing. I look forward to seeing what's going to happen.
Simon, I loved how you turned that question around on me. I loved it. So, okay, that answers the question, though, brilliantly. Where have you seen scarcity mindsets limit innovation in a company?
Scarcity mindset is actually more common than we think. When a company is young, they have lots of hopes and dreams and a vision of where they want to be. And so they try a lot of experiments and they don't have the world looking at them. So they don't feel this pressure to have to perform. So they like to get things wrong, they like to try things, and they start to grow. And there comes a point when maybe they have some successes. They might have a product that sells really well, or suddenly the service they provide becomes in demand, and they grow bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, for a lot of companies, they reach this point where they become a big multinational company. That is when scarcity mindset can, if not checked, start to creep in. Because what happens is we begin to get comfortable. Yeah, we've got to this point, we have some successful products, we have a great service, but then we become scared to try something new. We become scared to disrupt ourselves. We become scared to be innovative because that scarcity mindset says, well, what if that doesn't work and we lose customers? What if it isn't as good as the last product we sold? So scarcity mindset can very quickly creep in once you've reached a level of success, because now the world is watching. Now the world is watching the next step. There's more to lose. And that scarcity mindset can cause many companies' downfall. The one that comes to my mind as I speak to you now is BlackBerry. BlackBerry came out with a fantastic product that combined the internet and a phone. It sold really well, and it was at one point a highly profitable, hugely valued company in the world. And people were investing in its stock, and they wanted to be shareholders because they saw the company being the leader in that industry, until Apple, of course, introduced the iPhone. But once they got to that point of building the company to where it was, the innovation started to decline. They just made very small iterations to their product. And the scarcity mindset was, well, why change what we have? And they started to get very comfortable with what had got them there, forgetting that what got you to where you are today won't get you to where you want to be tomorrow.
Have you supported a leader and helped them to pivot from a defensive to an abundance mindset?
Many times, because this is endemic in many leaders. Because when you are at the bottom of a corporate hierarchy, it's fine for you to get things wrong. It's fine for you to try because you're one of many employees. So you won't exactly get noticed. But the higher up the ladder you move, there's only one of you heading up that department. There's more to lose. And your failures and your successes are magnified. And so what happens is that people start to get very defensive and very cautious with what they decide to put into action, what they say yes and no to. And so the way I work with leaders to reframe the way they operate is to help them to understand that if they don't disrupt themselves, if they don't try something new, then the market will do it for them. And it's far better to do that to yourself first than to let outside forces make that an absolute necessity. So for me, it's to give them the courage to try something different, the courage to think with a different mindset. That builds confidence. And when you build confidence, you build greater self-belief in your ability to do what you want to do to get to a new level.
How does that disruption start? Like, how would it manifest?
For ourselves or from the external forces?
From within.
The disruption starts from within, simply through challenge. You know, when I have a conversation with a leader, I might say to them, what would be necessary for you to get to the next level of your career? And then that begins the discovery. And again, that next level is different for every person I work with. For some people, they simply want more money. For some people, they want a certain title. For others, they want to make an impact. And for others, again, they want to be seen as a leader that has transformed that company. So once we understand what that next level is, we can then start looking at the habits that they have today and what must change for that to become inevitable.
It feels, and this is not wrong, but it feels incremental, like,
Yeah.
you know, slow journey, right? Nothing wrong with that. Maybe it's necessary, but what if, given the pace of change, and I'm a leader and I need to get things done yesterday, and I want to empower my team today, how could I potentially, I'm not saying that there's a right
Sure.
immediate answer, don't know if there is an answer, but what if I wanted to 10x this abundance mindset for my team today, right now, immediately? What could I do?
Well, it's funny you ask that question because it taps into curiosity. So if I was bringing my team together and I wanted to 10x the speed of our movement and what we can achieve, I might put out the question for the entire team along the following lines. How can we achieve this aim instead of the next 2 years, in the next 6 months? And just see what they come back with. Because now I've got the whole team curious. How do we condense a journey from 2 years to 6 months and see what responses I get? So what I'm doing here is I'm not only instilling curiosity, but I'm getting them to think more abundant.
And it will happen. It will happen. You've asked the question. You've opened up the challenge.
Indeed. And we love challenges. We love challenges. If you put it as a problem, we don't seem to like problems as much. But if you present it as a challenge and make it a game, we love games and challenges. So we go out and we will find a way.
We will find the way. Yeah, you've presented an opportunity. You've just even opened up the possibility, I guess, to a win-win, high-value partnership. Have you cultivated a partnership that's win-win because of your abundance mindset? I'm not sure. I don't even know if I like the word win-win. High value.
Well, I think simply, if I had to put it simply, abundance mindset is focusing on collaboration over competition. When you focus on competition, that is a scarcity mindset. It's you thinking, there's only so much of the pie for me to have. Why should I share it? Why should I partner? Why should I collaborate with someone else? Whereas if you focus on collaboration over competition, that is all about abundance. That's understanding it's not about one pie. There could be lots of different pies that we could access, lots of different pies that we can share. But actually, when we collaborate, we scale a lot faster. You know, collaboration is something I first learned when I looked at musicians. I love looking at success stories and codifying how they do what they do. And so if you look at popular musicians, what happens is they will sing, they will establish their credentials, they will build a big following around their work. But there's only so far they can get in terms of building that audience. When they think they've achieved a certain amount of success and fame, what they then tend to do is they look at their competition and they collaborate with them. So Ed Sheeran, for example, would collaborate with Andrea Bocelli in the Italian market, with Taylor Swift in the American market, with Beyonce in the hip-hop genre of music. And suddenly, he opens up his music to a new audience. So collaboration over competition allows us to access the abundance that is out there.
Therefore, is there a problem with the word? You could probably sense when I presented the word win-win. Is there a problem with that phrase, win-win? Because it almost implies like win and win, but will I have to give something up for them to win and me to win? Do you know where I'm going with that?
But the interesting thing is with what you're saying there with win-win is that is essential for a partnership to flourish. If you look back at Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he even dedicated a chapter called Win-Win.
Oh, right, okay.
Because the best partnerships is where the two parties feel like they're winning. They're coming away from that with the knowledge that this is benefiting me, but it is also benefiting the other person.
What if a true abundance mindset is coming from the perspective of, I'm not coming at this to gain anything. I'll just give, but I'll know by giving, I'll gain. There's that angle as well.
Definitely. I think when it comes to partnerships, it's about win-win.
Yeah.
But when we're looking at life holistically,
Yes.
it's about giving with no expectation of return. So when I think each week about people's lives that I can add value to, I don't add value to their lives and say, hey, what are you going to give me in return? I just add value for the sake of adding value. Yeah. And I believe that if that's what I'm doing, eventually it will come back to me.
Yeah.
In fact, I am a believer that our value as human beings is determined by how much more we have given to the world than we have taken from it. The more we give to the world, the greater the legacy we are going to have.
I guess, yeah, there's an extreme amount of sense in what you've just said. And I also think that how much we can give is limitless, whereas how much we can gain, could be a limit on that. Whereas we're in control as to how much we can give, and it is abundant. Exponential mindset. This one's special because I think there's a rare few people that would have this mindset. But first of all, what is it?
It's funny because when you say exponential mindset, the word that comes into my head is a visionary.
Yeah.
And the reason the word visionary comes into my mind when you said exponential mindset is because they see things most people don't. You know, you can talk about the Elon Musks that want to send humans to Mars, or the Richard Bransons that want to make space tourism accessible for all. This is what I call visionary. A visionary, or somebody that thinks exponentially, thinks without limits. They think, why not? Whereas most people think, why? And so that's, for me, the characteristics of an exponential mindset. It's somebody that others look at and say he or she is a visionary. Because what they put forward is so different to the visions that most people will have. It is high, it is bold, it may be unattainable, but that's what is exciting about it. It's an exponential way of thinking.
Therefore, since it is, I would say, a leadership trait, visionary, as you were saying, not so much about linear thinking, how could leaders adapt to an exponential mindset?
It goes back to the questions we explored around curiosity and creativity. To cultivate an exponential mindset is to empower your employees and your teams to ask better questions. Because if you want better answers, you have to ask better questions. And questions can unlock new ways of thinking. It can unlock our creativity. And if we give people no limits on what they can explore, then we're giving them the chance to cultivate that exponential mindset. So rather than questioning them all the time and dismissing ideas before you've even heard them out. It's to give them a chance to present them, give them a chance to share it with a wider audience.
Let's paint a picture, maybe through a story, as to what an exponential mindset can achieve. So maybe pick an individual who has that kind of mindset and what they were able to achieve on an exponential scale because of their mindset. Does the story come to mind?
The story of Clarence Kelly Johnson,
Go on.
the chief engineer of a company called Lockheed Martin. And in 1943, he was sitting in his office. He picked up a call from the US Department of Defense. And on that call, he heard that German jet fighters had just appeared across the skies of Western Europe. And the Americans, as you can imagine, wanted a counterpunch. But the timeline was tight and the mission was critical. But Johnson had an idea. So he went back to the company's facilities in California. He recruited a very small team of the company's brightest engineers and mechanics, warded them off from Lockheed's bureaucracy, and gave them total design freedom. No idea too wild, no idea too crazy, and he let them get on with it. 143 days later, ahead of schedule even by just a few days, Johnson and his team delivered to the Pentagon America's first military jet fighter. It was done in record time, yet achieving that in record time was not the goal. The goal was to rid the world of Nazi peril, to save the future of mankind. And that was exponential thinking, the sort of vision that could unite every single person in that team, from the most junior to the most senior. And when we look at our organizations, the way we can apply that is to think to ourselves, imagine if every single employee from the most junior to the most senior came into work each day demonstrating leadership qualities, what could be possible?
The scale of that would be just amazing. I love the story, by the way. I keep going back to partnerships because I know that the audience partnerships plays a big part of what they do in their world of business. So I wanted to ask you, how do exponential technologies, and we've spoken about a few, influence your approach to partnerships? You've spoken about AI. I'm thinking about AI. I'm thinking about the metaverse as being exponential technologies. So maybe elaborate for me on how these technologies, how you're harnessing them to yourself scale exponentially.
Sure. So I know the work that I do. So I coach and I speak. I have a limited capacity. There's only so many people I can coach. There's only so many events that I can speak at. So that is a limitation. But if I tap into these technologies, that gives exponential capabilities to me. I could be here now speaking to you for this podcast, but people right now outside could be coached by Simon AI. They could be coached by my AI. They could go to a metaverse and hear me speak. They don't have to fly all the way to London to hear me speak or attend an event which has a limitation in terms of the audience size. They can come into the metaverse and join me and many other people having a powerful conversation about topics of interest to them. So for me, that technology opens up lots of possibilities. And even recently, I shared a video on social media of me being interviewed on a podcast, but the response that I shared was not in English, it was in Hindi. And the AI made it look as if I spoke fluent Hindi because of the lip sync. And the AI has the power to take my response and relay it in over 12 languages. Just imagine how many more people can receive my information or receive my message if they don't understand English. Now that's just with my work. Imagine if we start integrating that into the way that organizations do business. Suddenly, you open up new frontiers that you could not access before.
I love that. So technology is creating abundance and your AI, Simon AI, is out there now.
It's not fully out there yet. We're
Got
still
it.
working on it,
Okay.
but hopefully in the very near future.
Next mindset. Purpose-driven mindset. People will understand purpose, but define purpose-driven mindset.
A purpose-driven mindset is where your actions, your behavior, and your choices are aligned to a goal that you are working for. The fact is, most don't know what they're working towards. You know, you can go and ask someone on the street, what don't you want? And they'll share a lot with you. I don't want to work for this company anymore. I don't want to be around this team anymore. I don't want this and I don't want that. But ask them what they do want. What do you want out of your career? What do you want your legacy to be? Not enough of us have given time to think about those questions. But once we get clarity on what our purpose is, it awakens one of the greatest sources of energy that there is going. The type of energy that pulls you in the morning forward to a purpose. The sort of energy that when you go through those tough times that we all go through, will make sure that that does not last long. Because you've got a purpose that you were meant to achieve. That's why clarity of purpose can be so powerful.
How would you advise a business leader to evolve their company purpose?
The first thing is, a purpose is only meaningful if everybody buys into it.
Yeah.
For most companies, they put a lot of buzzwords and they have this big mission, but the people at the bottom just don't buy into it. And so for a purpose to be meaningful and to connect emotionally with its people, they have to get the buy-in from everyone. So it's about asking people who enjoy coming to work, what do you enjoy most about working for this company? What makes you happy working in our organization? What do you feel you're working towards when you come here and develop your career? Now, when you start to get those answers, you can start to form an idea of what the company's purpose is. And when people feel they've contributed to what that story is, and you articulate that in a way that connects with everyone, suddenly you have the exact same effect that Clarence Johnson had with his team, where everybody is united by that common purpose.
Yeah, I like what you're talking about, purpose alignment.
The fact is, purpose, in most cases, is only discussed at the board level.
You're so right. People don't ask their people. They don't
ask.
Okay, so how do we cascade that down?
Research has shown that people are way less likely to buy from organizations. People buy from people who they know, like, and trust. If you are a leader in industry, if you are a founder or an entrepreneur, you will have a strong growth story. And the smartest investment that you can make with your time is to share that growth story. If you like the look of these podcasts and you would like to have the full studio and photography experience at our London-based studios, then reach out to me. You'll find the details in the description.
So once we are clear on what that purpose is, the way we cascade it down is by aligning the way we remunerate, the way that we review, and the actions that we take or don't take, and assess them against whether it helps us achieve that purpose or not. And does it reflect the values that we want to communicate to the outside world that we stand for? Now, if you don't have any clarity on your values or your purpose, guess what? It is easy to say yes to the wrong things. It is easy to go against those things because you just don't have clarity on what they are. So you can get pulled in all different directions and jump to the next shiny object without being clear as to whether that serves where you want to be.
Yeah, you can save a lot of time and money if you know the North Star.
Yeah.
So that's for people who are internal, they're there already. How about enabling leaders to intentionally hire for purpose in alignment? What might that look like?
Well, that is essential actually, because too many companies hire for skills and hire for capability.
Yes.
The fact is, you can hire someone that is highly skilled, highly competent, but is toxic. And you just need one bad apple to infiltrate your company, and it will spread. It will spread amongst your teams and your organization. So when you hire people, you want to hire people that are aligned to your purpose. You want to hire for attitude, because you can always train the skills after, but you can't train somebody who has the wrong attitude. So when we hire for attitude, the way that we get the right people through the door is that when we advertise the role, we advertise the role sharing what our purpose is, sharing what our values are, sharing our story. So when they come into the room to be interviewed, they know they are going for this job because they believe in that purpose. They share the same values, and they want to be part of this story that we are creating. But if we are advertising for skill sets, if we're advertising for capability, guess what? That is the sort of candidates we're going to get.
As a leader who's hiring for that kind of exceptional talent that's aligned to my purpose, what action could I take as an individual?
I think when it comes to hiring talent, sometimes the best talent comes from people you meet. So when you go out to conferences or networking events, or you travel and meet new people, when you are clear on what your purpose and your values are, you will no doubt meet other people who share the same values and who buy into the same purpose.
Or attract those people.
Like attracts like. So a conversation with someone on an aeroplane could just yield your next hire.
And I guess getting my leadership in my company involved in storytelling. What's your comments or perspective on the power of leadership storytelling?
Storytelling is one of the greatest skills that we can develop. And it's not just me that agrees with that. When Warren Buffett was asked, what is the most important skill in business that we should focus on? He said communication. He even showed one of the interviewers his wall in the office, because on that wall was only one certificate hanging there. And that was a certificate he got from the Dale Carnegie Institute for Public Speaking. And he said communication in all of its forms, how we communicate with our colleagues, our employees, our superiors, and with the outside world, is so important if we want to influence and move people towards action. And the reason why storytelling in leadership is so crucial is because it carries emotion. And if you are selling an idea, or if you are selling a product, or if you are selling a service, people buy through emotion. We like to think people buy through logic. The reality is people buy on emotion. You know, if you are feeling hungry and you haven't eaten all day and you come home, chances are you're going to order a takeaway. Or you're just going to grab something convenient on the way home instead of taking the time to cook a healthy meal. Now, that's not bad of us to do so. It just shows us that emotion has taken over. We're hungry and we want a solution now. And suddenly, the takeaway and the convenience store just feels a lot nicer to satisfy that hunger now. It's the same thing with the latest products. Every year, a new version of the iPhone or the Samsung phone comes out. You have a lot of people that constantly upgrade. Do you need the latest phone? Probably not. But we like to have it because it makes us look cool. Because we feel like there's a bit of kudos that comes with having the latest gadget. Again, it is emotion. It is emotion that takes over. So with storytelling, if we can tell powerful stories to our company, to our stakeholders, to the public, not only do we bring people behind us to make that story happen, but we create a brand. Brands are created by being clear as to what your stories are. And when people like your stories, you then have a loyal following because they believe. They believe in the brand you're creating. They buy into your story and they become your evangelists.
So just thinking, going back to why it's so pivotal to start with the right talent for survival, really. I think in this competitive space that we work in, it's everything. The people are everything. So it's mission critical to hire the right talent to start with. Leadership storytelling is powerful for that. There was something that I heard the other day that made me sit up and read it. It was such a simple little thing, but it's powerful, because if you sit next to an underperformer, or if you surround yourself with underperformers, your performance decreases by 30%. And if you sit next to high performers, it increases by 15%. So we can see what impact that has on wider culture and the performance of the team if you're hiring the wrong people. It's toxic.
It's toxic, but it also shows us that energy is infectious.
Right.
Whether you are around negative or positive energy, you become more like the energy you spend time with. But it also shows us that one of the fastest ways to succeed in business is to design an environment around you that makes it impossible not to succeed. Because the environment, as you've just shared, has a profound impact on how we show up, how productive we are, and the contribution we make to the success of the organization.
It's crazy. Powerfully crazy. Last mindset, longevity mindset. Do you want to define that one?
Longevity mindset is all about the long game. It's all about thinking long term. Too many people think short term. Long term mindset means that you're focused on getting the right systems in place, hiring the right people, but not letting the failures, the setbacks, and the challenges define you. But understanding there is no such thing as overnight success, only over time success. And this is where a longevity mindset comes in. You're not building for tomorrow, you're building over the course of decades. Because if you're only in it for a few years, the way that you show up and how you perform will be different to someone who's committed to making this a success over many years. Because their thinking is long term, which is essential at a macro level, but it also means they're not rushed and they're not desperate. So if I had to condense that down, I would say, in summary, it's about micro speed, macro patience. So it's patience with the journey, but speed in the short term, collapsing that gap between idea and execution.
Ooh, I like that. Help me to visualize that. Just bring it alive with the story. I like it.
Yeah. So I'll use myself as an example. My macro patience is the fact that there are lots of things that I want to achieve in the work that I do. But I'm not attached to whether it happens tomorrow, next month, or next year. I trust in my ability to make those things happen eventually. So it's not about if, it's about when. But I'm not attached to that when. It could be in 5 years, 10 years, or even 20 years. At a micro level, for me, it is about speed. Collapse the gap between idea and execution. If I get something I'm curious about pop up in my head, I want to go and explore it. I want to test the idea. I want to experiment. Because I know the more experiments I make now, the quicker my progress will be in terms of making that vision a reality.
And how about in terms of, very simply, just basic lifespan and longevity? How could your longevity mindset actually increase your lifespan?
Well, this is where my book Energize comes into play. Because if we want to experience a healthier and longer lifespan, we must focus on the 4 dimensions of energy. And the 4 dimensions of energy are physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And here's how they contribute to a longer life. Physical is all about sleep, nutrition, and movement. If you're getting quality sleep in and sufficient rest, if you are eating healthy, and if you are exercising on a regular basis, that is going to contribute to a longer lifespan, no doubt. It is going to be your soldier against ill health and a vaccine against disease. Mental energy is about your ability to cultivate a resilient and strong mindset. It is about your ability to focus in an ocean of distraction and the ability to access your creative energy. Emotional energy is all about the relationship you have with yourself and others. You might call that emotional intelligence or emotional fitness as well. And spiritual energy is all about meaning and purpose. When you look at the world around you, you will notice that so many of us are exhausted not because we are physically doing too much, but one, we are doing too little of the things that bring us joy, and two, we are running someone else's race. We are living a life for others, not ourselves. So when you start to address those different dimensions, you not only increase the chance of living longer and healthier, but you increase your happiness in the now.
Simon, that's profound. We have to choose the game we want to play. I love this. We end on the longevity mindset, which has all the core principles right here in this book. Simon Alexander Ong, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Simon Alexander Ong, author of Energize, YouTuber, international speaker.
Robbie, you have said that the metaverse and Web3 are as inevitable as death.
Did I say that?
You did say that.
Definitely
and you
inevitable.
sounded very confident when you
Yes.
said that. Would you still agree?
The idea of Web3 as being part of the infrastructure of the next sort of iteration of the internet, I do believe is